What's up, everyone? I wanted to make a new video about some of the new stuff that I posted on the store. I posted a few racks, I posted a sound design rack, and I posted some drums generators. And I wanted to make like a little tutorial about how they work and what you can do with them. So let's get right into it. This is the machine gun rack. So some of the things that you can do with this rack is basically randomize. I feel like that's always something pretty cool about Ableton. I say you can randomize this stuff. Sample pitch will change the pitch of the sample. Sample decay is the length of the sample. The all pass mix, I keep it up, like all the way up all the time, because this allows you to change the kind of like to smear the signal a little bit. So let me just open up millimeters. If I play with these settings, with the cutoff position and the filter resonance, you can get different kind of like shapes in this layer. You know, that's cool because sometimes you want to kind of like change the shape. Tone mix is this convolution here, and the tone width is basically the stereo coming from this impulse. PE attack is the pitch envelope attack, which is this one. So you can see that this one messes around with this pitch envelope. And that also gives you like a few different variations in the pitch movement. That's kind of like the main layer from this rack. And then you have the sub. You can totally change this if you want. Sounds like this. And you have a few knobs as well. Fade in, pitch, envelope speed, drive, oscillator, A harmonic. And the post process, which is just super simple. I mean, you can just read these descriptions, but that's pretty much it. And I think this is pretty cool because you can do some really cool stuff with this. And I think one of the most important parts with this rack is this. So basically you can also replace this with any kind of distortion that you like. If I turn it off, it would sound like this. This is huge. I don't usually include like third-party plugins with my racks because I want to make it like full Ableton stock. That's what I use the most. But Waveshaper is cracked, and this is free, so you can grab it. In this case, if you play with different algorithms and different shapes, this can get super interesting. This is pretty fun to play with, and that's important. And you also have like different modes. Cubic is insane. I love Cubic. I also made a video about kind of like the space laces method on my Instagram, so if you want to check it out. What I do with this rack mostly is, of course, play out a lot with the random function. One thing that I feel like it's important when sound designing is like being able to just get like random stuff or like a random input at any point that can drive you in a certain way that you weren't expecting. That's something that I do a lot. And of course, changing these sounds. I can use this as a layer and kind of like give it some kind of tone, kind of like mask some frequencies with the impulse here. This one would sound like... And these are also pretty important because, for example, the fade in allows the transient of this main layer kind of like go through the mix a little bit better, and then you get the low end tail. So it does something like, basically you get kind of like the transient from the main layer, and then the sub kind of like does this. So that's pretty cool because there's so much distortion in the sound. So you want to have some sort of like clean sound here, or some higher end frequencies just like going through the mix, so that way the sound can breathe. If you have it like this, like at 0, and you can see what this does is basically it's changing this attack knob, right? So it's doing this. So if I turn it all the way down, basically you get the sub and the transient kind of like playing at the same time. So you would get something like, say, main layer, and then the sub is kind of like doing the same thing. But think about this. This is going to be super loud. So the distortion is going to get into the sub. Like this is going to make the main layer kind of like go back in the mix. So you'll hear it. You can even see it on millimeters, like how the colors look. So you can kind of like adjust and play with that. You can also play with the pitch envelope speed. Same, you can randomize too. This is important too, like the convolver. I usually use snares for my convolvers because the snares are always pretty clean and they have like a decent amount of tone. These are the two settings that you want to play with. Sadly, you can't map these to knobs. That's why I don't do that. But you can change the decay, which is basically the length of the impulse. And the size is going to play with the pitch of the sound, okay? That's something cool that I like to do with the Cubic, kind of like this shape. For example, this one, I like these kind of like clap sounds. Since this is audio, this is pretty cool for patterns. And you can also try different impulses for sure. And of course you can change like the starting point here. That's what I do with this rack. Like, let me show you some of the stuff that I made with this rack. It's a really good starting point just to get ideas going. Okay, and then we have these generators. So these are pretty fun. These are to make drums. Like, I have two chains here in this rack. And then you have the sample here that you can totally change. So now, of course, you can randomize the whole thing. But that's the starting point. And what I like to do here is just layer different kicks on top of the body, okay? So that works pretty well, because if I get any kick, let me just drop it here. I can play with the pitch. And let's say I like this, okay? And now I can probably... And that's pretty clean. Playing C1, but if you play different notes. So once you find something that you like, you can start playing like different notes. Now we have the snare generator. It sounds like this by default with the samples that I'm using. It's easy to use. Like, you literally just drop anything here and see what happens, right? So you have the body, which is kind of like the main root note from the snare. The transient, which is just a transient. You can also turn it off. And this is the most important layer, okay? I think claps always work really well. But you can try different stuff. For example, you can play different notes. The thing is, like, the body of the snare, it's a fixed frequency. So even if you play like different notes, you can see here, it's not going to change the pitch, but it's going to change the pitch of these samples. So you can get different snares that way too. And then we have the cymbal gen. It's one of my favorites. And I think this is way more flexible than the others. I mean, the amount of different results that you can get out of this one. Sometimes you get something pretty tall. Sometimes you get like these long cymbals. Something like this, for example. And then we have the clap generator. The clap gen is just serum. It's just this. And you can probably change the noise if you want. Pretty easy to use. And I love these kind of like noisy claps. Super simple. And of course, feel free to just add any effects. Maybe you can add like, I don't know, compressor room if you want like reverb tail at the end, OTT if you want to get like more compressed claps, I guess. These are pretty much like the new racks that I posted on the store. If you want to grab these racks, I'll leave the link down in the description. And there's also a few discount codes for the first customers. So that's pretty much it. And I hope you guys enjoyed.